Hey everyone, this is Brad, and we're going over part 2 of the second checkpoint of the Pong project. So where we left off, we have basically the control for the paddles down, and the ball is now speeding up every single time it hits a player's paddle. The second part that we have to figure out right now is what happens when the ball hits either side, the left or the right side of the game screen. So I'm going to go ahead and make that just a little bit bigger, so you can see a little bit better idea of what's going on. What I want to do now is add, and you can see I'm on the ball, the Pong ball sprite right now, is add a condition that checks for when the ball is hitting either the left or the right side. So the way that I'm going to do this, and the way that you're not exactly constrained to do, but the way that I found to do easiest, is I'm going to check two separate conditions. And I can show the first condition right here. So what I want to do, I want to find the X position. I know that in sensing, we have the touching sensing block. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to check two things, and there's a reason for this. And if I can find the correct operator. Okay, so I want to check one if the, and I'm going to pull in and as well. Apologize for so many ums. So the first thing I'm going to check is, are we touching the edge, right? That's the first part that I want to check. I want to see if touching the edge is true. However, as you can probably guess, if I'm touching the top or the bottom, we won't want the game to stop. We want it to continue as normal. So the second thing that I'm going to check is the X position of the ball. So I want to check the X position, and I want to say if the X position is greater than, and I believe 200 is where my paddle sits over here on the right. If it's greater than 200, go ahead and we'll do some action, which in this case is going to be resetting to the center. Now the second condition that I'm going to check is the same, only in reverse now, because I want to say if the X position, and we're going to pull in the less than symbol right here, if the X position is less than negative 200, as that's where our second paddle sits, we want the ball to reset. Now the reason that I'm doing two conditions instead of just one for this part of the code is that I want to set score variables to be used later in the game. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to variables, and I'm going to set, as we do for variables, a variable which will be score 1 and score 2, as you can see I've created right here on the left. I'm going to set if it's going to my X position is greater than 200, that means we passed our player 2 sprite right here, which means that we will give a score to player 1. So we're going to give score 1, we're going to set it to score 1, and we're going to use the plus operator. So we're going to use score 1 plus 1. And we're going to do that exact same thing actually, so I'm just going to duplicate really, instead of setting for both. Set score 2 to score 2 plus 1. So again, this is a part of the checkpoint, but we really are looking forward to the other parts in our code and kind of what we want to set up. It's always smart to think ahead and plan these things out, as I usually don't do for these videos. But so what we want to do now is reset to the middle, right? Because right now it sets the score and it changes these as we go along. But you know, in Pong, the ball resets to the middle like normal. So I'm going to do something that we may have not seen before. This is just a little bit different, and we're doing this for a very particular reason. There's a lot of different ways you can do what I'm about to show you is how to reset, but this is sort of the one that I find works best. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take all this code out right here, and I'm going to set this when clicked to the side, and I'm going to have it broadcast a message. Now anytime that I broadcast a message, it's going to be heard by every single sprite in the entire stage, in the entire set, right? So I'm going to have it broadcast, and I'm going to create a new message called reset, and we'll broadcast this in the very beginning, as well as any time that we get hit right here. And what this reset's going to do is basically set the ball to go back to the center and start everything over again. So I'm going to use this block right here. When I receive is going to look for a message when it's sent, and it's going to do something with it. So when I receive reset, I want to go ahead and go to 0, 0, point in any direction, and restart at the normal speed, right? So I'm going to reset the Pong speed to 3, and then continue on like normal. So now what we're going to do is also we want to put this broadcast reset block anytime that we hit the sides. So anytime that we hit the sides, I'm going to duplicate that. We're going to broadcast reset, and then it's going to go right here, and it's going to commit this, which is going to go to 0, 0, point in direction, right? So if we see what this does, make sure I'm actually on the side. Let's just bounce it on the other way. And again, this is going to take a second because, of course, the ball speed starts out very slow. You can see now that it's hitting the side and it's resetting to the middle. So now let's go to variables and let's go ahead and see what our scores are. You can see there, it hit the paddle on that portion just because it has such a high angle. But you can see now score 2 is 2, and if it hits the side, score 1 is going to be 3, and so on and so on. And so that is the second part of checkpoint 2, and that is how we reset the ball every time that we hit the sides, and how we also start incrementing score to use for the actual game function of this later on.